Matthew, California. Yeah, for sure. We're trying again. Matthew, can you hear us?
All right. I can hear you.
Word. What's your argument for God?
All right. Thank you. So to start off with something I think we'll agree on, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's both possible that a God exists and that a God doesn't exist. So I don't think I could present you an argument that it exists 100%, but I'd like to present an argument that I think it's likely that a God exists.
Sure. Before we jump forward, Matthew, do you believe it is possible that spiders made of ice cream can throw, let's say, magical orbs which turn people into giant plums? Do you believe that's possible, that those exist?
I think I don't hear anything logically contradictory in that. I'd say that seems to contradict a lot of what we know about how things work, but I don't think logically impossible.
So here's the deal. Possible is a claim, and it's a claim that is separate from whether or not the thing exists or not. So when you say you believe both are possible, I say I don't think we can actually show possibility of at least one of those claims. If God does exist, it may be the case that we can't show that it is possible for all of this to have happened without him. But I can't say that I agree on the possibility thing. That said, I do need to step away. I'm going to leave you with Aaron for a couple minutes and let you all chat about it. But I just wanted to get that little thing in.
All right. Maybe you'd be safe.
Matt, so Jimmy's not here, so now we can make fun of Jimmy.
Or go ahead.
I
should start then with saying I'm not aware. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just saying that now because Jimmy's not here, the two of us should just make fun of him behind his back and then be all nonchalant when he comes back.
My core ethical principle is that you're most ethical when you do things when you think no one is listening. So I think that would interfere with that.
Very good. Very good. I agree with you as well. All right. But let's go to your point. All right. So I guess you say that you think you have at least a case to make that it makes. Would you say God is more probable than not? Would you say it's like more than 50%? Or are you just saying it's like at least better than 1 in a trillion %? I'm just trying to get a sense of what scale you're saying it's possible.
I think more than 50%, although I'd like to acknowledge the argument I'm giving is really only going to show that it's more likely, not necessarily that we reach that 50% thing. I think you might need other arguments for that, but I just wanted to present one thing simple. So
all right.
The idea is that if I were to take as premise that everything that we're seeing and observing in the universe is all going by natural principles that we can expect to be consistent, where we can observe something and draw inferences from that and predict something that will come later, I would expect something like the presence of life, which we know is possible because I'm talking to you right now, and at least you don't sound like AI, so I think we're both alive. We know that's possible. And if that were the result of natural processes, I would expect that it wouldn't just occur one time as a one-off. Now, it might be extremely rare. It could be extraordinarily rare. But the universe is also extraordinarily vast and has been around for quite a long time. So I would expect that life will have already popped up at least in some other places. And because of the age of the universe, I would expect that in some of those other places that would have had a long time to develop and reach sapience and eventually develop technology and eventually communicate with other life in the universe. And that hasn't happened, which does imply to me that there's something other than a natural process going on here. Now, I don't think God is the only possible explanation for that, but I think it's one explanation for that. Sorry for being long-winded. I tried to keep it short.
No, now here's the thing. You stepped into something pretty interesting because quite literally, just last year, I wrote a book literally on this sort of subject matter about aliens and religion and theism generally, and the possibilities of interactions there. And among the things that I did was try to calculate, well, how many cosmic neighbors might we have in the Milky Way galaxy right now? And given the evidence that we have, in some ways, it's actually not that surprising that we haven't communicated with extraterrestrials because, well, the universe is pretty damn big. It's absurdly difficult even to get to the nearest star system to our own. And that is a pittance of the distance it takes to cross the Milky Way galaxy, which is just one of hundreds of billions in the observable universe. So in some ways, I would say it's not at all surprising that there's life out there and we haven't chatted with them, just because we are divided away not by walls, but just by sheer quantities of space and time between us. And I say time as well because we don't necessarily know how long the civilization sticks around before it dies out for whatever reason. Like, there's been many times that humanity has nearly killed itself because we thought it was a good idea to launch nuclear weapons on each other. If that's the case, if like these civilizations live a matter of a few centuries of advanced technology, well, no wonder we haven't seen them. They went extinct millions of years ago before we even knew how to make the great weapon that was the pointy stick. So I would say it's not that unusual we haven't seen anyone. But now conversely, let's actually talk about what we would expect on theism. So do you think the universe was created for life?
I don't think this would imply necessarily that it was created for life, but I think it would imply that there was some kind of intention that would make life have occurred in exactly this one place and not other places. And I do acknowledge that I think you did just raise a very good rebuttal to that point.
Okay.
So I don't know if it was necessarily designed for life. I think I do know some things about the universe, and one of the things I know that we're pretty small compared to the scope of the universe. So saying it was created for life would seem, I think, even a bit silly compared to what we know about that.
Yeah.
I think it would have to be one of the things.
In that case, though, So, I mean, in that sort of case, though, it seems like you accept the vastness of the universe, the fact that most of it isn't life producing, and that life can come about naturally. So I guess the question is, why would this be evidence more for theism rather than naturalism? If everything seems totally consistent with naturalism, then why does it even begin to give any evidence towards theism, let alone enough to bring it up to 50% probable?
I don't think this provides evidence for something like the Christian God, which is not what I believe, to be clear. I think if someone
to even just be more broad, just theism, full stop, just any form of God. Why does it provide any evidence for supernaturalists?
I don't think it would provide any evidence for a God that had their primary intent to be for life. This would have to just be one intention that was behind it.
Well, in this case, it sounds like, honestly, I'm really confused when you say that this is an argument for evidence for God, but it seems like you've now backed up and said this isn't evidence for a God at all. So I'm really not tracking your logic here.
I think this is evidence for some intention behind the universe that intended for there to be life, given that we see life happen in exactly this one instance.
So then you're saying the universe is designed to have life in it?
Yes, but I don't think that's the primary intent. It couldn't be, given how much else there is there. I don't think there's anything inconsistent or even surprising that if there was intention behind the universe, that it could want more than one thing. I've heard before, I forget who said it, maybe you'll know. Someone said, if anything, the universe seems like it was fine-tuned for the existence of black holes. So, but maybe it was. Maybe the intention is that there would be black holes and that we'd have an exception where there's life in this one place.
So what you mentioned there with the black holes, that actually comes from Lee Smolin, and he's not that the universe was designed for black holes. His theory is that basically black holes can create universes that adjust the parameters of each universe they create, and this actually produces a natural selection for universes that produce more black holes, because those universes then produce more black holes that produce more universes. And then so just by natural selection, you get universes that are fine-tuned for maximizing black hole production, which has as an offshoot also the parameters that are really good for creating organic compounds and life ultimately. So this wasn't that the universe was designed, is that literally we can apply natural selection at a cosmic scale. That is at least the idea that Smolin has put forward.
Yeah.
So again, this doesn't require any intention. It's just letting the numbers fall where they may with this sort of natural selection mechanism.
You did say something earlier that I didn't really respond to, and I've been thinking about it. I think it might actually be a big problem for my argument. You pointed out earlier that I had talked about how big the universe is, how much space there is in it. And you mentioned the fact that even if there is a lot of life elsewhere, it might not be able to communicate with us. Now, I do know that even with all our efforts, I think the Voyager spacecraft is still the furthest thing we've gotten away from us. I don't know how much further we've communicated, but I do know that given our current level of moving things and communicating, that I don't think we can reach very far in the universe. So I think my idea that if other life existed somewhere and was intelligent, that it would eventually be able to communicate with us, I think might have relied on an assumption that I wasn't really thinking about, where technology would reach a point past where we are right now. And thinking about it, I'm not sure that's actually the case. There could be some limitations to how we can actually communicate that might make it harder for us to actually find out if other life is out there somewhere.
I always wonder why anyone cares about life being the thing that shows that it's intentional, because it's like, why don't you care that the universe produced rocks or any random inanimate matter? Because the way the universe works produces that, and that's less sexy and interesting. The fact of the matter is every life, for example, I like when people say life can't come from non-life. And then you ask, what is life made of? And they say cells. And they say, what is cells made of? Well, organic, ions, organic molecules, and inorganic molecules. And what are those made of? Well, atoms. Right. And what is all non-life made of? Atoms. Got it. So life isn't different than everything else. It's just atoms arranged in a different way. But it feels very important to us because we're a part of it. But they don't care about the fact that there are rocks is proof, because something, everything lined up perfectly to create rocks. We just are a part of the universe, and our physical difference between that which is inanimate is just pure ego, which I have too. I feel very, very important. Look at me. Look what I do for a living. What a fucking egotistical bitch I am. But at the end of the day, it's this thing that baffles me, that people are like, well, the universe produced everything as far as we know that it can produce. And one of those things was life. But because I like life so much, that's the proof that there was a God. It just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah,
but I missed a bunch of the conversation. So
probably fair.
Yeah, I missed a lot of conversations. I'm sorry if I just came in and basically said a tangential thing.
Before I forget, I was really interested in the book you had written that you were discussing earlier. I guess the title of that before I forget.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the book is called Aliens and Religion, Where Two Worlds Collide, the theological impact of the discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence. I co-wrote that with Jonathan M.S. Pierce last year, and you and everyone else on the call should buy at least 3 copies.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Matthew, we are going to leave it there, though, because I actually need to go ahead and wrap the show up, but I appreciate your call very much.
Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for the responses. Something to think about.
Cool. See you later. All life is made of non-life. Hey, thanks for watching that clip. Did you know we saw what you were doing when you watched it?
We saw all of it. All of it. All of it.
All of it. So you're going to want to pay us hush money over at patreon.com/calltheline, where you can buy our silence and watch our patron exclusive podcast.